Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. From websites and online stores, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence. So to start out the year, I know many of us set out new goals for ourselves, whether it be personal or career-oriented. And if you're looking to expand or improve your art or creative business, Squarespace is a great platform to do that. You're able to directly link your social media straight onto the website, and it's really intuitive to customize to your preferences without needing to know how to code. This allows you to have all your content in one place, which makes it very organized and professional for potential clients and for your audience. So if you are interested in launching your own website, head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/imawonder for 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Hello, my magical friends. I hope that you've been having a good start to the new year. In today's video, I will be recreating 2 screen caps from one of my all-time favorite series, Sailor Moon, mainly using watercolors and a little bit of gouache. As always, all of the art supplies used in today's video will be listed in the description down below. So, earlier this month, I asked my lovely patrons to vote between 3 different options for today's video, and this screen cap of Princess Serenity was actually the winner. I ended up painting it and filming the process for the Patreon exclusive video for the month, and anyone who is in the $5 tier or over has access to view this, as well as all of my previous exclusive videos on my Patreon page. And so I really loved all 3 of these screen caps, and so I ended up deciding to go ahead and use the second most voted option for today's video of Usagi and Luna in the rain, which I will be showing the process of in the second half of this video. For those of you who have been with my channel for a while, it will come as no surprise to you that I absolutely adore Sailor Moon. And while I actually have already done a few screen cap recreations from this iconic 90s series already, I decided to revisit some more because I felt like I really wanted to see what I could do with the more background heavy pieces or screen caps, since the previous ones that I've done were very character forward. And something that I absolutely love about the Sailor Moon series, particularly the 90s TV show, is the way that they approached backgrounds. It has just this beautiful aesthetic, and the colors and just the kind of watercolor-esque vibe to it is just chef's kiss. And yeah, not only do I love making these screen cap redraws because it's fun to, pay homage to a series that I love, but I also find that it's a great way for me to learn something new, whether it be how to approach color, style, and or composition. Last year, at the beginning of 2021, I had done some jelly gouache screen cap studies for the animated film Klaus, and I had discussed my art goals for the year. So to kick off 2022, I thought that it'd be really fitting to do something similar. And so in preparation for this video, I actually went ahead and re-watched my previous art goal video just to see if my goals had changed, if I had fulfilled them, and basically my goals that I had set out for 2021 are going to be carrying through to 2022. And before we properly dive into all my art goals, I just want to make a quick disclaimer that if you are someone who does not make New Year's resolutions or just don't have the energy to do so this year, you totally should not feel obligated or feel the pressure to do so just because other people are making New Year's resolutions. Or if you made New Year's resolutions and you've already, haven't committed to all of them, don't feel that bad. Because honestly, I recognize that these past few years have been really challenging and trying for all of us in various ways. So you know what? If your goal is just to make it to the end of the year in one piece, that is absolutely valid. I personally like to set a few New Year's intentions, mainly to give myself some kind of direction or like due north so that I don't feel totally lost or aimless going into the year. I think that using the word intentions as opposed to goals or resolutions also helps put me into a mindset that I shouldn't punish myself or feel like I've failed if I happen to not meet all of my expectations, and it allows me to be flexible if I need to be. I find that this is especially important to keep in mind, especially, during a time that is so unpredictable. And when I did rewatch the art goals video that I did last year, there were a couple of things that I had mentioned that I didn't technically fulfill. So, I think that, going into the mind frame that is its intentions as opposed to resolutions just kind of gives yourself a little bit of leniency. So anyway, with all that being said, let's finally jump into these art intentions for 2022. So my first one is art style exploration and experimentation. So one of the most talked about topics in the art community is art style. And while I still stand by the notion that a lot of what would define your art style will come naturally to you over time, and it will also likely evolve and change over time, I think that there is definitely room for you to drive your art style in a specific direction if you want to. Over the past couple of years, I have been fairly unsatisfied with my art style and the work I have produced. There are a number of factors that come into play, but I think that one of them is that I haven't been challenging myself in my approach to art, and thus the work that I make just doesn't feel as interesting or rewarding. Unfortunately, a major factor to this is that video creation, like YouTube, takes up a lot of time, and it also changes the way that I approach art creation. So I found that it was much more manageable to keep the artwork simple if it was going to be filmed for a video. And then when you pair that with, constant impending deadlines, it doesn't really give me a lot of room to, spend a lot of time over one art piece. So when you're constantly chasing deadlines, it doesn't really give you a lot of room for exploring and experimenting. However, something that I think will help alleviate some of this is that I want to embrace working in my sketchbook more often, and also trying not to have such a large amount of pressure on myself when it comes to what I produce in a YouTube video. For a really long time, I was generally the type of artist who would just jump from one finished illustration to the next. And so that's a huge reason why I have so few finished sketchbooks, because I really didn't spend a lot of time in them. And so it took me a really long time to actually fill them from beginning to end. Last year, I finally started to spend more time working in my sketchbooks, and I want to continue doing that this year and really try to give myself the space to experiment. I still find that I have a hard time really properly letting loose and continue to be very kind of precious about each page needing to be presentable, but hopefully I can slowly break that habit and have a little bit more fun in there. I do find that doing these screen cap redraws has been a great exercise in art style exploration, and I do find them really fun to do. So I will definitely continue to do them in the future, and I think that they do make for fun YouTube videos in terms of seeing the process, and also it allows me to have, fun voiceovers talking about these different TV shows and movies. And yeah, just kind of going back in with the art style thing, I've been really trying to dissect what elements of my own art that I like and what elements that I don't. I have been looking back at previous illustrations and evaluating what it is that makes me really like it or dislike it. So I've been looking at illustrations that I've made in the past, and if it's something that I particularly like, I'm trying to decide what it is about it that makes me like it so much and how I can continue to produce things similar to it. And also, I've been trying to study artwork from other artists that I really enjoy and seeing what it is about it that resonates with me and how I can incorporate those elements into my own work. So I think with those in mind, I will likely be making more experimental or sketchbook type videos here on my channel. And hopefully, you guys can come and enjoy this art style exploring, experimenting journey with me. My second art intentions is to make more finished illustrations/paintings. Now, I know this might sound contradictory to what I had just previously discussed, but I'm hoping that all of these art style experiments will give me a clearer vision into creating finished artworks that I will be satisfied with. I've been seeing some of my peers make art books that collect their best body of work, and occasionally I've had people ask me if I intend to make my own art book. And while I do have various zines that contain kind of different series of my work, for those of you who don't know, a zine is more like a self-published mini magazine. And when I've been posed this question, I honestly don't know if I have enough work that I deem worthy of a proper, bound, finished art book. So I not only want to create more illustrations that I can make prints from, but I also want to make more paintings on wood panels and canvases and sell the originals as one-of-a-kind pieces. There's something really gratifying and special about selling original paintings, and since I've been slowly organizing my studio space, I came to the realization that I have accumulated way more panels than I even realized. So I think that not only will this help encourage me to make more work, but it will also help me clear up some space and make me feel less like a hoarder. It's getting a little out of hand. I knew I had a lot of them, but when I really organized them and really went through them, it was kind of a daunting realization. I kept buying them thinking I was going to make something out of it, and then they just collect dust in my shelf in my closet. So hopefully I can finally get around to actually making some work out of them. And yeah, in turn, hopefully, with this mindset, I can create not only more, original paintings, but eventually I can contribute to a body of work that I can look back on and be proud of, and hopefully, make an art book one day. My third art intention is to try risograph printing. So this is something that I definitely mentioned in last year's video and has been something I've been interested in trying out for a number of years now, but have still yet to actually take the plunge. So for those of you who don't know, risograph is a specific type of printing that has this photocopy / silkscreen type look to it. It prints one color at a time, and so when you want more than one color, you have to feed the paper through the printer multiple times, and so it kind of creates a really interesting kind of layering and slightly kind of offset look. It's kind of hard to explain. I'll have some kind of examples on the screen there, but yeah, I don't know, it has a very unique look to it, and the vibrancy of the inks is just amazing that you can't quite achieve with a typical printer. And this type of printing is very specific, and honestly, my usual artwork is actually not even possible to make into Riso prints. And so the reason why it's taken me so long to actually try it out myself is that I would obviously have to significantly adjust my usual type of work to suit a Riso print. And there's a very specific procedure in setting up your files because you have to separate each color in its own layer, and so that's something I would also have to figure out as well. All that being said, I am still really keen on trying it out anyways, because I think that it would be not only a really interesting challenge to adapt my work in like a very stylized / graphic way. I just really love the look of Rizzo prints, and so naturally I want to, try my hand at it myself. I mean, of course, I wouldn't be doing the printing specifically. I would, contact a shop to do the actual printing for me, but I am really interested in seeing what kind of work I could make in this type of application. And another thing that I had mentioned in last year's video that I didn't get around to was also making more enamel pins and designing iron-on patches. This is something that I am interested in doing this year as well, but I'm not trying to be too married to the idea, because I think the Rizzo prints is kind of the priority for me in terms of new merchandise to kind of dig into. But enamel pins and patches is definitely something that I am interested in. And if I get around to it, then great. And then if I don't, then that's fine too. My fourth art intention is to document my life more through either blog posts on Patreon, vlogs on YouTube, etc. So this one is maybe less quote-unquote art focused, but I think it still fits within this realm, and I wanted to include it since it does tie into general content creation, which of course is a huge part of what I do in my career. And so, yeah, something that I've been thinking about a lot lately as I get older and as we continue to endure this pandemic is how time is moving very quickly and it's sort of just passing me by. And I really don't want to take things for granted, whether it be, from my past, my present, or in my future. It's really easy to fixate on the negatives as well as focus on things that I don't have, that I lack, or I wish I had. So I really want to appreciate the things, the people, and experiences that I have had and currently have. And I think that a great way of commemorating these little elements of my life is by making a point to document it more. Even, the seemingly mundane or insignificant things, because I think that I do, of course, document elements of my life, but I find that I only do it when I deem it, quote unquote, significant or of importance. But I think that there is a lot to appreciate in the smaller things in life. Although I do recognize that there is a fine line between documenting my life to appreciate it more and documenting my life to a point where I'm, forgetting to live in the moment and I'm focusing on like monetizing, every little element. So one of the things that I want to start doing is a monthly reflection blog post over on my Patreon page. I think that maybe at the end of the month, I can review the little highlights, whether it be food that I ate, TV shows I watched, art that I made, etc. And another thing that I had done in the past a couple of years ago and would like to start doing again is monthly favorites posts on Instagram. I got the idea from my art mutual David Culver, where at the end of each month we would illustrate basically a mood board of some of our favorite things that month. I think that it's a really fun exercise to, doodle things that I might not normally draw, but it's also a fun thing to look back on and see, what sorts of things I did or was into during that month, because, I think that life, like I said, it goes by really quickly, and sometimes, several months from now, I might forget certain things that I was like particularly into that month. So I also think that it's a great way for me to connect with you guys as well, because you get to see more specific things that I was into, and maybe you'll, resonate with the same things, or maybe discover new things based on what I share. That year when I did those monthly favorites, I had used watercolors, which I think was perhaps a bit too time consuming. So this time around, I think I'll use either paint markers or alcohol markers so that it's more manageable to maintain, and then so hopefully I can actually stick with it. And then lastly, I would like to continue making vlogs for YouTube. I think that it's, definitely something that I'm still not entirely used to, including in my day-to-day routine. But I think that it'll be nice insight for you guys to continue to see, snippets of my life as a full-time creative. And as well, it'll, for me in the future, it'll be nice to look back on how far I've come and just little reminders of different milestones and just what I was up to that month or those, this period of my life. And for my final and fifth art goal, I want to take my time and have fun. This very closely ties to my first two art goals of art style experimentation and making finished artwork, but I really think that it's important to emphasize, and I think it's worth mentioning. Like I was discussing earlier, I often get caught up with meeting deadlines or feeling this sense of urgency to constantly be pumping out new art and new content. And this mentality really makes me, rush through the art process and thus makes me lose sight of the most important thing, which is that art should be fun. The whole point of me choosing to make art my career is that I wanted to make a living off of something that I'm really passionate about. But somewhere along the way, I began to lose sight of that, and the excitement that I used to have about drawing and painting just sort of faded away. So hopefully I can find ways to slow down and really find that spark again with art and my relationship with it. And with that, that concludes all 5 of my 2022 art intentions. It's very possible that I might not meet all of these expectations, and that's okay. We're all out here just trying our best, and at the end of the day, that is enough. If you have decided to give yourself some New Year's intentions, art related or not, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. And that concludes today's video. So thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed hearing me ramble about my art goals and enjoyed seeing the process of me working on these Sailor Moon recreations. I really appreciate you being here and watching. I hope that you have an amazing day or evening wherever you're at, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!